Well, what if you could take that asset, sell it, and now when it goes into the deferred sales trust, it's producing $180,000 or $190,000 of cash flow, right? You just increase that margin for your financial freedom. That perhaps, given the increased cost of living, given the increased inflation, things like that, you have an opportunity to get some financial freedom. And so the one of them that kind of really sticks out for me was for a client that sold a beach house near Santa Cruz. And this house was their former house that they lived in 20 plus years ago. They bought it for around $900,000 and it went to as high as about $8 million. And they were Airbnb-ing it, so they're actually getting some good cash flow. But essentially, their overall cash flow was not maximized to the actual, $9 million. Now, this particular client, she was in her 80s, and so she sold it as a way to basically more than double her cash flow and get complete financial freedom, which leads into the second freedom, which is location freedom. And this particular deal had a client who was in his primary home, and he was actually still living in the home. It wasn't even a rental. All of his kids are gone, and he's looking at about an $8 million sales price. He had about $6 million of debt or so, and his basis was about $6 million. And so even above his 121 exclusion, he had this tax bill. And what was challenging for him was I have so much debt, I have so much tax. If I am to sell, I want location freedom. I want to be able to move out of California. I want to be able to relocate. I want to get a little bit lower cost of living, a little bit slower pace of life. I want to retire. I actually want to get to Nevada next to family. He wanted location freedom, but he literally felt trapped in his house because of the tax. And enter the deferred sales trust as the solution for this. What's really cool is you don't have to do a 1031. You don't have to move out of your house and try to rent it out. In fact, he could just sell it, defer the tax, and get cash flow and be able to relocate to a new state. So time freedom is the number 3 freedom that the deferred sales trust unlocks, in that it allows you to get your time back. And what the best example for this is a lot of our entrepreneur business owners that are looking to retire. A recent deal that was closed for a client was a New Jersey dentist, and he had worked as a dentist for 30 years. And for him, he's going, Brett, I'm ready to retire. I'm going to sell the business anyways. He's selling for around $2 million. His tax liability, New Jersey, which is one of the New Jersey, New York, and California are like the 3 worst, right? But somewhere like 40%. And he's going, Brett, I've worked for 30 years. This is really my retirement. I mean, I have some, but this is going to determine my finances. But also, it's going to give you my time back. This is really what I want. I want to be able to enjoy my retirement. So if I can sell now, I don't have to work as long, right? I don't have to wait a few more years. I can actually sell in today's value because I have an extra basically 40% because he had a zero basis on a $2 million sale, right? And so instead of getting, and saving and working a few more years to get more for his retirement, he's able to execute. And guess what? He did this about a year and a half ago, before the market has really shifted. So he got a good valuation for his money where interest rates were still pretty low, where the buyer could still buy at the right time. So who knows what the value of the practice would be today had he not sold it with interest rates that have nearly doubled, right? So he gets his time back. He gets time freedom to be able to retire. He gets time freedom from not having to work another few more years. The next one is entrepreneurial freedom. This is probably my favorite, right? Because I'm an entrepreneur at heart. And I wanted to find something for my clients after the 2008 crash that gave them the ability to be real estate entrepreneurs, but when the timing was right for them. So what does that mean? That means selling high and buying low when it makes sense. That means selling high multifamily property and maybe starting a business with the money, right? All tax deferred. So the deferred sales trust unlocks this entrepreneurial freedom by doing just that. You can sell any type of asset, whether it be cryptocurrency, whether it be a business. In fact, a recent deal that Jake and I did, we helped a client who exited cryptocurrency. She bought it, and she used to work for Google, but her biggest dream was to be an entrepreneur and have her own tech startup. And this is out of the Silicon Valley. So she bought some cryptocurrency, Bitcoin in particular, at 50,000. It went to 50 million, and then she was able to exit 5 million of that. And then with Jake and I's help and the tax team's help, invest some of that into some securities to get some diversification, some liquidity, but use a big part of that to fund her tech startup, with her college roommate, right? So her dream was to be an entrepreneur. She wanted to have that entrepreneurial freedom, right? And the deferred sales trust unlocks the capital, an extra, in this scenario, about 37% of taxes deferred, which became the capital to launch the company. Pretty awesome. So you can be an entrepreneur. You can have freedom with the deferred sales trust. Jake, how does the deferred sales trust provide estate tax freedom for those that are subject to, these massive taxes?
In regards to estate tax, so we have this big scary monster, so to speak, and I'm not just talking about tax in general, but estate tax, and it's big and scary because it's typically 40%. Now, 40%, that's huge, especially if you talk about sales tax, income tax, capital gain tax, dividend tax. You talk about all these other taxes that people pay every single day. And of course, when it comes tax time, which we just passed one of those other deadlines a couple of weeks ago, right? And then here in the spring, there's more tax deadlines. We're always very conscious of whether it's self-employment tax, whether it's, C Corp tax, whether it's, pass through to my 1040 and I'm subject to ordinary income tax, what have you. At the end of the day, if you pay all of those and you think that you're done, you might be wrong. If your estate has grown sufficiently enough that you are surpassing those exclusions, which right now for another couple of years, that's $24 million married filing joint, just over that threshold, right? If your estate is greater than that and you hope or wish or desire to pass it on to your heirs without doing some entity structuring, some layering, and some of these other things, you might be disappointed that what you hope to pass on might get chopped up and diced up again, so that 40% of it can go to the government in estate tax. And the DST 2.0 could be a planning solution for part of that. Essentially, people and individuals who are selling off capital assets right now can freeze the amount that stays inside of their taxable estate. They can freeze that amount and be reinvesting in the Deferred Sales Trust 2.0 and having it grow outside of their estate, so that as an estate planning tool, not only a deferral of current tax, but as an estate planning tool, the DST can help their family legacy in years into the future. So, Brett, can anybody be a trustee?
So technically, like trustees, in regards to someone being a trustee, someone can be a trustee. The question is the relation to the person too close where it's going to fail? So what does that mean? That means, can my brother be the trustee for my deferred sales trust? The answer is no, right? It's a relation. What if it was my best man at my wedding? No, it's too close for control. What if it was an employee or someone where I had some kind of influence or control over, basically prior to getting all of this set up, becomes, we believe, too close for what is allowed. And so not in the sense that anyone could be a trustee, yes, for one part of it, but the other part of it, no, because now the people who created this also recognize that it's not just a warm body to be a trustee. It's somebody that actually understands the structures and has been trained, has been, in a sense, certified by them to be able to execute this. So
now, Brett, another question that oftentimes comes up and came up this very same week. If I have a partner who's perhaps a minority partner, and so my tax paying is a lot more than my partner's tax paying, do we both have to do it, or can I do it and he can choose not to?
So generally speaking, you can go your separate way. So one can just pay his tax, the other can just defer his tax. In fact, we just did a deal in San Diego for 4 partners on a $13 million car wash sale. They bought the land. It was an old taco stand in Chula Vista. Anyone ever in San Diego? Chula Vista, it's like just a vacant piece of land with like a small taco stand. The guy's doing the work. And they came to the guy at the taco stand and said, hey, we want to buy your land, but we want to put a car wash, but we're not going to put you out of business. In fact, we're going to give you 2 or 3 times as much business, because inside of this car wash is going to be a restaurant, and it's going to be your restaurant. And you're going to run your taco stand, but we're going to build it all out for you. You run your business, we'll probably double, triple your money, because all the people that are coming in for the car wash, they want a place to eat and they want to hang out. We're going to have they have the soccer game on or the football game on the big screen, and they get to have amazing, Mexican food. And so he said, sure. So they did that, and they built this structure, $4 million, and it was valued at $13 million. Actually, they thought it was for 10, but the guy showed up at $13 million. By the way, this is a year ago. Talk about timing the market, right? They sell at $13 million, but guess what? Of the 4 partners, one wants to pay his tax. He's just older. He just doesn't want to, deal with the 1031. He doesn't want to do a deferred sales trust, so he pays his tax. But the other 3, they're like, no way, we don't want to pay 40% in tax. So they deferred it, and they each had their own individual trust. So it's important to understand that each single or married couple can have their own trust, and the other partners can have their deferred sales trust.
How do you avoid incidents of ownership if the CEO, the asset holder, retains the ability to direct investment?
We provide a number of different measures so that it's not viewed that they retain total authority, meaning the trustee must sign off on any investment. And so there's a dual signature process. There is not a unilateral directioning of anything, as well as the trustee must be a third-party individual who is not deemed to be under your power and authority, meaning can't be somebody that you've used in the past, you had a prior business working relationship with, can't be a family member, can't be somebody who is just an order taker. Has to be somebody who can be considered a fiduciary for the assets of the trust, always maintaining the best interests of the trust in mind. However, the individuals that moved assets into the trust went from ownership of those assets to lendership. So they are the creditor. So rather than directing the assets, the creditor must approve, since they have a promissory note against the assets, and technically the trust owes them all of the assets back. The creditor must approve of any risk that the trustee might take on behalf of the assets in the trust. Come join my Tuesday presentation, and just take a look at my website for the times and the place for that, and register. And we'll see, if not, we'll see you here next Friday.